Okay, today we're going to do changing your trapKAT FSR and PADS, the new bounce pads. Remove your back cover by removing all the screws. Take it off, set it aside. Now this is what the inside looks like. This is your circuit board. Remove these cables, marking the location so that you know where they go, especially on these. Just put a tag on them. Remove all the board screws, take the circuit board out and set it aside. After your circuit board is out, you have to carefully lift the duct tape that's holding these cables down. You need to unplug your FSR tails. Remove this tape, it'll make it easier when you're pulling it off. Turn your unit over, no board, and remove these plastic plugs. Make sure you save them, you're going to need them to reassemble. Set them aside. Set it aside. Remove all 6. For this, I'm just going to do 1. Grab a hold of your FSR and just give it a good pull. After you've removed your FSR, make sure your metal is clean. Get all the adhesive off, wash it good with alcohol, and make sure it's dry before you move on to the next step. Take your 2 FSRs, left and right. I already put this one on. Remove the release paper on the edge. Holding up this side, just put the plug part back in without the screw so that you can line up. Once you have it lined up and it matches, it fits, take those back out. I use a towel here. Stick the edge down where you removed the release paper. Carefully lift it up. Do not bend or crease the FSR. Just remove this. Throw it on the side and use the towel to lay it flat. After that's done, put your plugs in. And now you can actually put your screws in. You don't have to screw them back in, just pop them in. Carefully put your tails in, don't bend them. Just tuck them in. Use your new label supplied. Lining up the opening of your display, just place your new label. Now you take your pads, a little this way, this way. This is the only tricky one. You have to look for the notch. They have a little notch. The notch matches up. I'm just laying them in here to make sure I have all my pads. Okay. Now is when it gets a little tricky. I like to start on this one. Make sure there's no debris of any kind under the pad. Remove the release paper carefully. Holding the edges. The pads overlap the black. So you want to make sure you give yourself enough room And once it's down, you only have seconds to be able to lift it back up and replace it. So you got to be very careful with this step. Then do the next one. Leaving, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch between pads. Work your way from the center out. Just need to be careful putting them on. Leave yourself enough room. Keep them tight, because when you get to the rims, it gets smaller and smaller. Just line them up. Drop it down. Okay, all my big pads are on. And same thing with the rims. Just remove the release paper. Do one end, drop it down, all of them. Work your way all the way around. All the way around. The front ones, same thing. They're not doubled though, because you don't need them doubled. All the outer ones are all doubled. But same thing, just put them in where they're marked on the FSR. As long as they're not touching any of the pads. After all your pads are on and in place, press down. Turn your unit over. Find your tails. Very carefully not to bend them. Plug them back in. Oops. I have to take it back off. Okay, I'll move on. Put your piece of duct tape back here. It just helps hold the tail, protects the tail a little. Okay. Cover everybody back up, holding it in place. If you need new duct tape, go ahead and use it. Take your circuit board, place it back in, and reattach all your connectors. Beeper, whisper. Plug your cables back in. Screw in your circuit board. Add a little, what is it? Caulking. We use caulking here to hold these in place. And put your cover back on. No, actually you want to test it before you put your cover back on. Make sure everything's working. Then put your cover back on and you're ready to go.